Welcome to this GCSE Maths revision video using fully worked examples of typical GCSE questions. This time, we're looking at a question on vectors. I am Mr. Lindsay, your tutor from mathstutor.uk.com. So what we have here is we have an equation, A equals minus 9i minus 7j, and we're told that I and j are perpendicular to each other and that they are unit vectors. And we're asked to find minus a half a. Well, this is simply an equation. A equals minus 9i minus 7j. And we know that with equations, we can apply the same operator to both sides, and the equation holds. So we can multiply the left-hand side by minus a half, and the right-hand side by minus a half, and the equation will still hold. So let's multiply that out. So that will give us minus a half a, which is what we're after, equals minus 9 times minus a half. Minus times a minus is a plus, so that gives us plus 9 over 2i plus 7 over 2j, which is the answer. But since this is a revision video, let's look into this in a little bit more detail. Firstly, what do we know about vectors? Well, we know that vectors have a magnitude, which means a length in this context, and a direction. So let's say we have vector b, but any vector can be made up of a number of different components. So let's take two components in this example. So let's say one component of b is little b1 going in that direction, and another component is little b2 going in that direction. And that would give us b equals b1 plus b2. But of course we haven't got b here, we've got a. So let's have a look at a in more detail. And we're told that a is minus 9i minus 7j. So let's look at I and j. Let's take I as a starting point. So I is 1 unit long. That's because it's a unit vector. So let's say I is that vector there. And we're told that j is perpendicular to it. So there's j, and is also 1 unit long because it is a unit vector. And now when we try and work out a, we have to take each component, and then the first component is minus 9i, which means that it's 9 units long, going in the opposite direction because of the minus sign to the direction that I goes. So let's do just that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's minus 9i. And then we do minus 7j. So we continue this, going in the opposite direction to where j normally goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's minus 7j, which gives us our resultant vector, a, which equals minus 9i minus 7j. Now when we take minus a half a, we do two things. Firstly, we multiply all its components by a half. So that means we would start off with minus 9 over 2, which is 4 and a half, 2, 3, 4 and a half. So that's minus 9 over 2i. And minus 7 over 2, which is 3 and a half, j. 1, 2, 3 and a half. So that's minus 7 over 2j, giving us the resultant vector of a half a. Now that is a half a, not minus a half a. To get minus a half a, we have to turn it in the opposite direction, flip it around, and now we have minus a half a. Because I and j are perpendicular unit vectors, we could have written our first answers using column vectors, because column vectors make the assumption that the components are perpendicular. So we could have written this in a different way. So let's write the answer using column vectors by recognizing that I and j are two perpendicular unit vectors. So we could write A equals -9, -7 as a column vector, which is the same thing as A equals -9i -7j, because I goes in one direction and is a unit vector, and j is a unit vector that's perpendicular to it. So we could then multiply this equation by -1/2 on both sides. So that's -1/2a equals, and we can simply multiply each component item in the column by -1/2. So we would end up by 9/2 as the top item and 7/2 on the bottom of the column vector to give us our final answer. Very importantly, these two representations mean exactly the same thing. They are simply just different representations of a vector. Please add any comments below so I know what works and what can be improved. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and keep up with the content that matters to you. Till next time, goodbye.